to 4.
Do you have a gardening problem? We can help you with that. A program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow. We're here to help you with your gardening problem. You're tuned in to Garden Talk Radio.
You are listening to the most informational-packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. So glad you've taken time out of your day to join us on the program. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Thank you for taking time to join us today. For the next hour, we're going to be talking gardening and how you can have a better garden, landscape, maintain your grass, trees, the whole deal. Whether you're listening to us on one of the 16 stations we are broadcasting on across the United States in 2020, a radio app through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website, which is our website, you can find all of the content of the program there. Under the Season 4 tab, podcast replay or in-studio video replay, we thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Joy Barrett. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Selfie expert, Holly Baird.
This program is about you, for you, to help you grow a better garden, healthier trees, maintain your landscape, preserving what you grow, indoors and out. We've got it all covered for you. There's several ways in which you can contact us during the show, after the show, anytime, via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. If you use Twitter, you can hashtag TWVG on your tweet. We will tweet you back, or just send us a tweet at TWVG Show. You can follow us on our Facebook page, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, or you can jam your fingers in the phone anytime, 24/7, and give us a call. Our number, easy to remember, 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-SHOW. Well, we have a big show lined up for you, as we do every week. For segment 1, we're going to go over how fertilizer works, when to use it, when not to use it, and the science behind it. As well as in segment 2, we'll go over 20 plants that are deer resistant that you can incorporate into your landscape. As well as our guest this week, author Kate Peters, will be with us, and will answer as many garden questions of yours as we can squeeze into the program. So let's get into the first topic of the show. It's how does fertilizer work? What type of fertilizers are there? And when should fertilizer be used?
Right. So there are many different types of fertilizer. There's anything from organic, inorganic. There's liquid fertilizer such as compost teas, otherwise just a regular liquid fertilizer. Slow and controlled release fertilizers, dry fertilizer, water-soluble fertilizer, just to name a few.
And yeah, literally, that's just to name a handful. There's multiple other different categories of fertilizers that are available and which one can use on their property.
Right. So now you always want to make sure you're following the directions. So just because you use the same brand, say you use Uncle Joe's fertilizer, and for one type you use a cup per 4 square feet, it doesn't mean that this other type of fertilizer uses the same thing.
Many fertilizers of the same brand uses multiple or different recipes per application per bag of fertilizer. And just because 1 cup must be good, 3 cups must be better. That's not what we want to do.
No.
Not at all. Because that can damage the soil structure, damage the plants, and cost you money in which you don't need to spend.
So inorganic fertilizers are materials that are mined or synthesized from non-living materials. And these nutrients are immediately available to plants. Others are formulated to allow nutrients to be released over a period of time. So if you use an inorganic fertilizer, choose one with some or all of the nutrients in a slow or controlled release form, so the plants will be able to take up the fertilizer as it's gradually released.
And that's the thing, taking it up as it is needed instead of just dumping it all at once on the plant, and then it just absorbs it all and can have unnecessary side effects to the plant growth and production of fruit or leaf structure on that matter.
So organic fertilizers are ones that are derived from plants and animals. So manure is one of them. Organic matter incorporated into the soil before planting will help fertilize your vegetables and plants, but you'll need to add additional fertilizer after planting or throughout the season.
And we recommend that you follow the package on the back, the recipe on the back, the instructions, and it says, apply X amount per at time of planting, and then also X amount of days following the planting. You side dress it or top dress it or work it in the soil in order to feed the plant throughout the growing season, because some of these plants, tomatoes, for example, are heavy feeders. They take a lot of nutrients to produce the crop in which we love to eat and harvest and eat.
So manure tea or compost tea is made by steeping manure or compost in a barrel or a tub of water, and then you take, you would take like the manure or the organic matter and put it in like a porous bag, and then you let that water seep through and kind of make your tea or steep your tea.
You can do this with weeds as well.
Yeah, and that can take anywhere from 24 hours to a week, depending on what you decide to how long you want it to soak, how much you're making, etc.
Now, these applications or these procedures of the weed tea or the compost tea, when you take weeds out of the garden, throw in a tote, and let them steep, this is not something you want to do in an enclosed area.
You want to do this in your, in the backyard somewhere.
It does smell.
Oh, yes.
When we made weed tea a couple of years ago, and it had the same aroma, that may not be the correct word, the same stench, let's put it that way, as a cattle lot, because of the it wasn't oxidized. It was just steeping there. It wasn't being mixed.
It stunk pretty bad.
Yeah. So
but it was very healthy for our plants.
Yeah, and you're not utilizing your pocketbook. You're using things that you already have available on your property. We all have weeds. We can put them in a tub and steep them, and then utilize that nutrient that comes off those plants and water your seedlings with, your starts with outside, or as the plants are maturing.
For sure. So that definitely is an excellent option as well. And water-soluble fertilizers are quick boosts for vegetables, so it would be like liquid or crystals.
Which is a good thing is if you are seeing a deficiency in a form, a deficiency somewhere in which it's lacking of nitrogen or it's yellowing, and you can identify that that's being the nutrients that is lacking in the plant uptake, you can instantly boost it with a liquid fertilizer.
And then there's foliar feed, which is spraying the plants with a diluted liquid fertilizer, and this is actually spraying the leaves themselves. It's usually not a regular maintenance thing. A lot of times it's something if you want to give your plants a special boost, or you're trying to help assist them with some sort of deficiency they may be having.
And anytime you do a foliar feed, it's recommended, and if you can use a Chapin pump sprayer, the finer the mist that goes in the leaf, the easier the plant is to absorb that moisture into the leaf structure.
Do you need fertilizer? It depends on your growing situation. So if you have a raised bed you've had for a couple of years, you could, I'm sure a lot of the compost there has settled, or the soil, whatever you're growing in, you could just add more soil,
right,
and that will give it a boost. If you have soil that needs replenishing that you're planting in the ground, definitely something you could give it a boost with fertilizer. You kind of have to assess that on your own. Well,
with a raised bed, even if you have good compost and you've top dressed it, if you're using an organic fertilizer, it's not going to overpower the plant. The plant will only pick up what it needs to use, right, and what's available. Real quickly, let's talk about what the 3 numbers on the bag is, because we've talked about we've talked about adding the fertilizer, but understanding what the bag is informing us of is crucially important to this whole procedure.
Yes. So there's 3 main numbers on the back of any, or on the front too, of any fertilizer bag. And the first one, so it's 3 numbers. It's NPK. N is nitrogen, P is phosphorus, and K is potassium.
and it can also be potash. That term is loose as well, but it's the same nutrient there. And whether you're listening to our show in Quebec, Canada, Australia, Iran, Russia, those three are the same universally. Those three numbers: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That's what it means anywhere you're at in the world. Those three numbers are represented the same.
Right. So nitrogen is going to add the greens to your plants. It's going to add that green color to your plants. Phosphorus is good for the root and fruit. Yeah, and then potassium is like for all of the benefits of your plant. Mm-hmm.
And people, bananas have the potassium in it, but use a fertilizer. Don't add, steep a banana peel for several days. Those are the three, wherever you're at. So you can figure out the best advice would be if you're lacking or you think you're lacking, you probably are, and you need to get a soil test. Go to your local university website for a small fee that you can figure out how they want the sample to be sent, and they can greatly determine by that test how much you're lacking in certain nutrients and minerals, and how you can, or if you're surplus on certain nutrients and minerals, how you can combat that to get a level in which is healthy and productive for your garden. Because there's no bigger disappointment than to do everything that you're supposed to do, and at the end of the season, you've got small plants, small fruit production, or sometimes no fruit production in the instance of you've put too much fertilizer on the garden, too much nitrogen, so you've got these big, massive tree-like plants with no fruit because the plant is sucking up all the nitrogen and not able to pick up any of the other nutrients in which is needing to develop the fruit on the plant. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, do you need be aware of when you need to use it? Use it sparingly, especially with the liquid fertilizer. Go, quarter to a half of the strength is what it's recommended on the back of the package. Just because, here's the key: I can always add more, but if I add too much now, I can't reverse the problems in which has been,
especially not during that season.
Yeah.
If you add way too much, you're going to have problems.
You're going to either kill the plant or damage the plant to the point where the plant's going to go in a recovery state and it's not going to have time to produce. So always add more. What is it in construction? Measure twice, cut once?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the same thing when it goes to fertilizing the garden.
Right. So thank you for taking your time out of your day to listen to our show. This is our third show of 2020. Did you miss last week's show? We talked about what our heirloom organic hybrid F1, F2 GMO seeds are. We also talked about companion planting. Does it work? And our guest was author and garden TV host of Growing a Greener World, Joe Lample.
Great conversation we had about a lot of important stuff about your garden with Joe last week.
You can catch that show by going to your favorite podcast platform and search the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener podcast, or we'll make it even easier.
How can we make it easier? How can we make it easier for them?
You can send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and in the subject line, just put show 2, and we'll send you the link, or whatever show. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. We'll be talking about
deer-resistant plants that you can incorporate into your landscape. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow indoors and out.
You can bet the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners phone lines are always jammed during the show. So Joey and Holly keep their phone lines open 24/7 to help you. Call anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-7469. Or just remember 1-800-927-SHOW. SHOW. Leave a message and they will call you back.
We here at the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardens understand that healthy soil is always the key to a successful garden. We know that chemical fertilizer burns carbon out of the soil and kills the microlife needed for a healthy soil ecosystem. No worries. Chicken Soup for the Soil by Dr. Jim's will stimulate life in the soil and supply all the nutrients most fertilizers neglect. Rather than force-feeding water-soluble chemical fertilizer, we suggest feeding the microbes a smorgasbord of 100% bioavailable nutrients that your plants can consume when they need them. Chicken Soup for the Soil is an amazing fertilizer that will increase the quality of all the fruits and vegetables you grow. Perfect for gardeners, growers, and farmers. To find out more about Chicken Soup for the Soil and other products, visit drjim's.com. That's drjimz.com. Seed Savers Exchange has been saving, preserving, and sharing heirloom seeds since 1975, and today continues to provide those seeds to gardeners just like you. With 600 plus varieties offered in this year's catalog and 18,000 listings on their exchange, their gardener to gardener seed swap, Seed Savers Exchange is keeping cherished seed varieties alive. Visit seedsavers.org to request a free catalog or to purchase seeds online for this year's growing season. That's seedsavers.org.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
The Simply Solar Greenhouse is a one-piece molded fiberglass greenhouse that is easy to install and maintain. Multiple sizes available. Check them all out at migreenhouse.com.
Trim Bin turns any chair into a workstation. Comfortably sort your herbs, dried flowers, cannabis, and more. Easily collect pollen with a static brush and mirror finish collection tray. High walls keep your work contained. To get yours, visit harvest-more.com. Made in California.
Do you tweet? Send Joey and Holly a tweet to @TWVG Show or just use #TWVG and they will tweet you back.
Bluemel's has been one of Milwaukee's premier garden centers for over 60 years.
We have always been committed to putting our customers first. When there's demand, we stock it.
When there is an idea, we grow it.
When there's an opportunity, we build it.
And when there is a need, we deliver. Our family continues to offer you the industry's best garden and landscape products and services.
The same as my parents did when they first started the business back in 1955.
Visit Bluemel's.
Quality and service are the roots of our business.
Bluemel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Neptune Harvest, Happy Leaf LED, Dripworks, We Grow Indoors, Deer Defeat, Harvest More, Blue Ribbon Organics, Bluemel's Landscape and Garden Center, Chip Drop. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. So glad you've hung around. We're going to be talking about some deer-resistant plants in which you can incorporate into your landscape, and we're going to throw some vegetables and herbs in the mix as well. We've got about 20 to go over. We'll see how many we get through in the second segment here. And now the thing with deer-resistant plants, here's a disclaimer. If deers are hungry enough, they're going to eat and nibble on anything that they can get a hold of. So these are deer-resistant, not deer-proof.
Right. Also, deer, they each eat different things. So what might work for your area may not work for our area, or vice versa.
And deers have become a big problem for gardeners because they forage throughout the garden, and based on your location of the garden, it might be next to a woods, a reserve of some sort, and they funnel next to your garden. They see all the garden candy, and they decide to investigate and eat. Now, you can put a barrier up. That's the first and best defense in which you can deter the deers from getting on your property. How tall does a fence need to be?
At least 6 feet.
At least 6 feet, some 6 to 10 feet, based on who you ask. That's quite a big investment based on the size of the property in which you're trying to protect. So the next best thing is you can use a spray or a repellent deter the deers from eating your plants. Now, we've got a great sponsor, Deer Defeat. It is an effective deer deterrent for not only deers, but rabbits and groundhogs and other browsing animals. It doesn't wash off. You can spray it directly on your plants up to the point of, if it's a vegetable, up to the time of flowering. It doesn't scare the deer off, but it keeps the deer and other animals from eating it. It has an odorless smell to the human after 30 minutes, and you apply it every 30 days, and it will not wash off. It's great to use. All natural products, and you can also save a little bit of money by using coupon code RADIO. Save 10% whenever you go to deerdefeat.com. Deerdefeat.com, use coupon code RADIO at checkout. And it really does work, and the testimonials prove that from gardeners from all over the country.
Boxwoods are a popular shrub, and they're commonly used in landscape. Now, there is a disease called boxwood blight, which is something to think about. But this plant takes well to pruning. It will grow for decades when it's happy, and it's a full sun plant.
Yeah, so keep in mind that these are just a small list of plants in which are deer resistant, not deer proof, that would look good on your property. We didn't include everything because it would take a whole hour in order to go through all of these. But boxwoods are a very good popular plant in which is incorporated into many landscapes throughout North America.
There is junipers. They're very tough plants. They can grow short or tall like a tree, and it's an indestructible evergreen essentially.
That's a very strong word.
They're a very hardy plant. I know that they are. So yes, they are, and deer typically don't care for them.
Lilac is another one. We've got lilacs on our properties. Your sister has one in her backyard. Your mom has one in her front yard. Very durable plant. Now we don't have the deer infestation as some gardeners do,
especially in our direct area.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the lilac is a beautiful tree, shrub, bush, whatever you want to call on that. Has a wonderful fragrance in the early portions of spring. And if not taken care of, it can get out of hand and quite large, as your sister has, we've seen in your sister's backyard.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So that is the lilac. The inkberry is an evergreen shrub. It's small, has little blackberries.
Hence the name.
Not blackberries that you eat, but little blackberries that are blackberries. It's a substitute for boxwoods, and it's happy in the shade or with partial sun.
So if you're looking at the boxwoods and was concerned about the blight, the inkberry is a good substitute for that to have on your property. Now, with any of these plants, you need to figure out what growing zone you're in, and then purchase accordingly for plants that that will stand and be able to handle the cold in that particular area that you're in. If you're in growing zone 5, make sure you get a plant that can handle, that's suited for growing zone 4 or even 3, because just because you're in zone 5 and X amount of temperature is the lowest, you do see those times where the temperature gets much lower. And if you have that cushion of a plant that is actually designed for 2 growing zones lower than where you're at, really can save a lot of time and effort and keep the landscape looking well, and you don't have to replace them every so many years whenever the detrimental cold hits them.
So there's elderberries. There's varieties such as black lace and black beauty. Most people are familiar with. The elderberry plants are becoming more familiar because it's good for your immune health. And they are tough little shrubs. They like sun, but can also grow in partial shade.
And then we have holly, not you, because I don't think, the deers probably wouldn't eat you if you stood out in the field. But this is the bush shrub.
How do you know that?
I'm just taking a guess.
Maybe they think I'm tasty.
I don't know. This is not the time nor the place for that conversation.
Okay, fine.
The holly plants. Now, the thing about holly plants, there's several different varieties. They may nibble on the plants, but it's people always say, well, they said it wasn't it was a deer resistant plant and they ate part of my plant. Well, still.
But again, if they're hungry enough, they're going to eat something.
But yeah, there are a couple of different varieties of the holly bush, holly tree, holly plant, however you want to categorize that.
And they can grow in sun or shade.
Right.
So daffodils are.
We're all familiar with daffodils.
Right. Now.
The sign of spring.
But keep that in mind.
Yeah.
They only bloom in spring.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind, and those prefer full sun.
Another one, let's get in some of these vegetables here in which are good for deer-resistant plants. Rhubarb, whether you grow it in a container, as we do, or you have it in the ground, deer-resistant. Mint, always grow that in a container. Never grow that in the ground. Otherwise, you will have a garden full of mint that you'll never get out unless you use harmful chemicals. That's just what it is. If you're familiar with creeping Charlie, as we are here in the upper Midwest in the Wisconsin area, mint is a relative of that plant.
Mint is just very aggressive.
Yeah, well, so is creeping Charlie, but creeping Charlie is not on this list, but I just wanted to bring that up as informational base there. Another one is garlic. Garlic is typically planted in the fall, harvested in the spring, early summer. Onions, another one that deers do not find appetizing. Potatoes are another one, as well as hot peppers because of the heat factor. They get in their nose and ingest that, and they don't like that very much.
And dill. So dill is also very similar in the fact that it can be invasive like mint. It's a different invasive. If you let it go to seed, it's going to reseed and continue.
In some states, it is considered an invasive species and prohibits the growth of it in certain areas. Chives, also related to the onion, rosemary, sage, thyme, all herbs that are good for, and oregano, all good for deer-resistant plants.
Do you have time for the deer?
Nobody wants time for the deer. As well as another one, which is not as familiar to some people, but it's called Mexican sunflowers. And it has a very abrasive leaf structure to where the deers don't like that on trying to eat it. It's very prickly to a certain degree, and they'll go elsewhere. So some people will actually surround their garden with the Mexican sunflowers. So that's something to also keep in mind.
The other thing to keep in mind is don't put the deer candy right by the edge of your garden.
The peas,
So
the beans, yeah.
Peas, yep. Tomatoes, whatever that might be attractive to them. You don't want to put those...
Lettuce and spinach, yeah.
You want to put those on the inside and then put the plants that they don't care for on the outside, because as most of us know, deer are easily spooked. So if they're going into your garden, they're going to go around the edge, typically, and then if something spooks them, whatever, they're going to run away.
Right. So that just that's a handful of plants that are deer resistant that you may want to incorporate into your landscape or your garden based on your herbs and your vegetables. That deer resistant, not deer proof.
Soon it will be warming up again. You want to make sure you enjoy your yard without sharing it with beetles and grubs. Spring is just around the corner. For many of us, we're experiencing some spring-like weather. There's Japanese beetles articles from all over the Midwest. We get this question a lot. Grub Gone can be applied to your turf or garden around ornamentals to control the grubs and lessen the impact the beetles have on your yard this summer. You want to apply it now or as soon as possible. Easy to use, apply with any commercial spreader and irrigate into the soil. It specifically targets grub and beetle invaders without harming beneficials such as bees, ladybugs, and butterflies, and it's the only non-chemical that works. You can find this information at phyllombioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com.
phyllombioproducts.com. Organic products that will help deter and get rid of the Japanese beetles that devastate our garden each and every year. Well, don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, and preserving what you grow indoors and out. Do not go anywhere. Author Kate Peters coming up next.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Planting conditions are always favorable with the Power Planter Earth Auger. No matter what the job is, Power Planter has the right size for you. Simply attach to a drill and let the Power Planter do the work for you, creating holes fast and efficiently with ease. Find the size that fits your project at powerplanter.com. The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants. To multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds, rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code TWVG at checkout and get 10% off your entire order.
You are listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program to help your garden grow better, have healthier trees, maintain your landscape and yard, indoors and out, plus preserving what you grow.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come,
which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Oh, yeah. What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Power Planter Earth Augers, Ivy Organics, Rootmaker, Pomona Universal Pectin, Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Pro Plugger, Tomato Snaps, World's Coolest Floating Rain Gauge. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Bluemel's Landscape and Garden Center is open for operation, and they are there to assist you for your gardening and landscaping needs. You're in the Milwaukee area, that's the place to go to get all of the needs met that you need for your landscape and your property. Bluemel's Landscape and Garden Center has 40 varieties of bulk material, from gravel to wood chips to sand to compost, as well as a knowledgeable staff that will help you. You can find them at 4930 West Loomis Road, just off of Layton in Greenfield. You can give them a call at 414-282-4220 and visit them online at bluemels.com.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Katie Elzer Peters is an author, copywriter, editor, blogger, and gardener. She's also a marketing expert and has written a number of books. She also used to run botanical gardens.
Welcome to the program, Katie.
Thank you.
Well,
Glad to be here.
Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to not only enlighten Holly and myself, but all of our listeners too across the country.
Well, I really appreciate being here.
Well, let's talk about you're an author. Your very first book is A Beginner's Institute Guide to Gardening. This book is full of really good beginning gardening information for all of those of you who are beginner gardeners. It's the book you should get. What was the inspiration for writing this book, and what is one of your favorite little tips or tricks that you had put into the book without giving too much away?
So I was basically inspired to write this kind of by my sister and some of my friends. I wrote it I wrote it probably 8 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. And it was at the age where a lot of people that I knew were like buying houses and they had no idea what to do with their yards. And so I wanted to make just a really simple step-by-step book where if you had a new yard or you had a house and you weren't sure what to do with it, how to trim the shrubs, how to take care of your lawn, if you wanted to grow some vegetables, that you could pick the book off the shelf and then just turn to the section that you needed. Like if you needed to prune your roses or you needed to prune your shrubs or feed the lawn, and you could just read that one section and get exactly what you needed to know and take care of your living space without it being this overwhelming, scary, proposition. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are unfamiliar with you and I and Holly, we're very in depth into the genre of gardening because this is what we do. To an average homeowner or a 20-something or a 30-something-year-old who has just bought a house, number one, they're overwhelmed because they just made the biggest purchase of their life. Yes. And two, they do not want or do not have the finances to go hire somebody to come in and maintain this property in which they've just invested their whole life savings into. And your book allows them to make a small investment in a book. And you basically, it's like you're there right there instructing them how to go about doing these very easy tasks once the knowledge is obtained.
Yep, that was my goal. And I don't know if I could pick a favorite tip. I think the one thing that I did that really should help a lot of people is I did separate warm and cool season vegetables and warm and cool season annual flowers, and I am teaching people a little bit about this, and that's something I think can hang up a lot of new gardeners, that if they try to plant cilantro in July and it dies, they think that they're a terrible gardener, and they're not. It's just that cilantro likes to live in cool weather, and a lot of gardening books really don't separate that out, and it's just a tiny little distinction that can make a huge difference in whether you're successful or not.
Yeah, the confident boost. Hey, I did this wrong. I found out how to do it right. We're good to go now.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely. Now, you worked in botanical gardens before you became a business / marketing consultant, editor, etc. What was the reason you decided to make that career change?
Well, I'm just going to be real honest. Sometimes you don't plan to have a career change. I really did think I would manage botanical gardens my whole life. That's what I wanted to do. And it was right around the stock market crash in late 2007, 2008. And I I ended up needing to leave the garden that I was working at, and I had just bought a house. And so I needed to figure out something else to do. And I had always really liked writing a lot. And I did fundraising as part of my my master's program, and marketing and fundraising are very close to each other. And so I just went online and started writing and blogging and doing marketing, and it's been awesome. Just kind of, turn around. And what it's let me do is I can reach a lot more people now than just working at one garden. So I guess a message for our times would be, particularly right now, when something changes, there is always an opportunity. And I took that opportunity to grow and go in a little bit different direction, but still work with plants and gardening and helping people, and continue to do that. And it's been unexpected, but really cool.
Well, we sit behind these microphones each and every week over the last 3 years, and we've asked questions in the same type of context that we asked you, and they always was, well, we never planned for this, or I never planned for this, but it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. So
it truly is.
Sometimes it's best that we don't know what's on the door that we're going to open, because if we didn't know, if we always knew what was behind that door, many of us would not take that jump, and we'd set to where we have been confident, and we didn't want change, and we'd be too scared to make a move forward.
Yeah. And now more than ever, I think it's important to be brave and try new things. And that's kind of what gardening is all about, is trying new things.
What's the worst you can do? Fail and learn and try something new.
Try again. Yeah. Yep.
Now, you have a book on no waste gardening, and It is very ecologically minded. What is the book called, by the way, also, and why
Oh,
is
yeah.
sustainable gardening so important to you?
Well, so the book is called No Waste Kitchen Gardening, Regrow Your Leftover Greens, Stalks, Seeds, and More. And it's it's kind of more, it came a little bit about more because I wanted to experiment and because I've always liked to experiment and sort of see you plant something, you try to grow something and you see what happens. But it does have a sustainable message, and it has a message of really getting the most that you can out of the produce that you buy or even that you've grown and harvested. There's a lot of food waste, and in fact, there is actually a cookbook that I have that is about cooking with all of the pieces of the plants that you usually throw away. But there's still life left, and there's still harvest left in a lot of what we would throw away or compost. And so it is just about squeezing that extra bit out. And, it'll help the environment, it'll help your wallet, it'll help just helps if you need something that you would normally have to run out to the store for. Again, something, these days I'm like, buy a head of lettuce, regrow it after you chop it, regrow those green onions. You can still squeeze some more out and buy yourself a little bit of time. So it's twofold message. It's both your wallet and it's the earth, like just making sure that you're not throwing away perfectly good bits of food that you could use, and both polluting and or having not gotten as much out of the vegetable or fruit for all that it took to grow it. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense.
Well, when you talk about regrowing onions or regrowing that little bit of lettuce left, how are we doing that? Are we using a windowsill? Are we investing in grow lights? What is kind of the technique that you practice that you have found the best success with?
Really, when you're regrowing, all you need is a windowsill. If you're growing things, if you're growing things from seed and you want them to be productive, a lot of times you do need a grow light because you're trying to get, the first sort of flush of growth. But if you're regrowing, the ends of onions or lettuce, the windowsill is all you need because the plant pretty much has in it what it's going to do. It just needs a little bit of water. The light, quite frankly, what the light does is it makes the greens a little more green. They can photosynthesize and they can become a little more green, but you don't need a fancy setup at all. In fact, when I was working on this book, I grew all of this stuff for the photo shoots, all of the plants and seeds and everything. And so, but I was traveling a lot that winter. And so my husband had to babysit everything while I was gone. And he called it my little plant zoo. And it was the entire kitchen table was pretty much just filled with jars and bowls and pots of things. And I don't have a grow light and I don't particularly have a bright house, but everything, it grew just fine. The plants still have, it's so easy because the plants still have life to give in them that are in this book if they just have mostly just a little bit of water and a stable place to grow.
That's definitely great. Now, what is your favorite vegetable or fruit to regrow from scrap, or maybe most notable?
Well, I'm very proud of the blessed sweet potato that's in the book. I love, it's kind of fun because you can almost grow it as a houseplant, but in terms of actual utility, I think that regrowing head lettuce and regrowing the like green onions or scallions gives you kind of the most bang for your buck, and can truly be actually like helpful. It depends on how much you consume, but I mean, I eat a ton of lettuce, and so for me to be able to regrow those little lettuce heads actually made a little difference. And then green onions, it's just so convenient to have them on your countertop as opposed to having to like run out and buy them.
Well, absolutely. Now, we embrace failure as gardeners, and I'm sure you're familiar with Shauna Coronata. She's made it very well known on this program that you're not a real gardener until you've killed at least 1,000 plants. So there's many of us in that category. What is, and we use that failure to grow from, no pun intended. What is a garden fail that you've experienced in your growing that really has taught you something pretty unique?
Well, I was thinking about this today because I feel like I've had so many failures. But one thing that comes to mind is that I am not always great about spacing with plants. Sometimes I tend to plant them too close together, particularly like shrubs or trees. With annuals or perennials, it's a little bit, they're a little bit more forgiving. But the idea of really needing to look up what the size of a tree or shrub is going to be after it's been growing for several years, and trying to honor that when you plant it, particularly as I've been living in the South where it seems like nothing ever stops growing. If you plant stuff too close together, it will engulf your house. You just kind of end up with a jungle. So that's one thing that I really have learned a lot from. And then the other thing, which I just talk a lot about in the No Waste book, is you kill something and you start over. I feel like with gardening, there are a lot of people who think if they did something, if something died, that they have a black thumb. And that's not the case, especially when you're regrowing stuff. You don't have any idea what the plant has been through, that turnip or beet or radish or whatever, before you got it. And so you just, you try, and if it doesn't work, then you try again. And so, I mean, that would be, I think, the biggest, just almost like life lesson, which we sort of talked about earlier, is like, don't give up on the first try. Just don't ever give up on the first try, because it might not be you, or you might just need to learn some more. Or maybe the plant was treated so it wouldn't sprout, and that's why it won't sprout in your house. So I think that's not really a mistake, but it's just something that I feel like people feel not confident about if they try once and it doesn't work. I'm like, nope, just try again.
Definitely. That's definitely a very important lesson to learn in life, but also in gardening as well. Now, where can we find out more about you and your books and all of your great information?
Well, I do a whole lot more like business blogging and stuff now. Gardening is more, but I do have a website, thegardenofwords.com, and that's where you can find me. And then on Instagram, I'm always, well, not right now, but usually traveling around, and that my Instagram handle is Katie, Katie _ Garden of Words, and invite people to find me and ask me questions. My email is on my website. I'm very happy to get people's questions. I love to answer gardening questions, so that's where you can find me.
Well, Katie, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on the program, and not only sharing stuff with Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country.
Thanks so much for having me, and happy gardening, everybody.
Absolutely. You too.
You can bet the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners phone lines are always jammed during the show. So Joey and Holly keep their phone lines open 24/7 to help you. Call anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-7469. Or just remember 1-800-927-SHOW. SHOW. Leave a message and they will call you back.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Brought to you by Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardens, farms, landscaping, and more. Visit BlueRibbonOrganics.com or call 262-497-8539 to find their products nearest you.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Protect your plants against damage with a 3-in-1 plant guard and special blend fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com. make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com.
Bluemel's Garden and Landscape Center offers an awesome selection of high-quality garden and landscape products. We have just the plants you're looking for: annuals, perennials, veggies, herbs, and more. Plus, you can always count on us to answer all of your questions and offer expert advice. Bluemel's also carries the largest selection of bulk landscape materials in the area. Enjoy a beverage from our coffee shop while your kids run around in our huge playground. Join our growing list of highly satisfied customers. Visit the garden center that offers everything you're looking for. Visit Bluemel's today.
Bluemel's 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Phylum Bioproducts, Spartan Mosquito, Dr. Jim's, Nasala Kabucha, MI Greenhouse LLC, Green Gobbler, Water Hoop, Seed Savers Exchange. Find all sponsors at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool to find the right size for your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. So glad you have hung around. We're going to answer some of your garden questions, well, as many as we can get in. If you got a garden question, you can submit it to us at gardentalkradio@gmail.com anytime. Also, you can give us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-SHOW. And if we can't get to you, leave a message. We will call you back. We got a bunch of questions, Holly. All right, let's go to Mary. She sent a question from Silver Springs, Maryland. I'm starting a vegetable garden this year. Would like to know your best suggestion on where to purchase seeds from.
We would suggest seedsavers.org. They have a great selection. They're a very good, reputable company. Definitely feel free to check them out. They even have like little growing, I want to grow this type of garden, little growing kits or whatever you want to call them. So that is one great resource. Barb and Joel ask, I have a question about carrots and have not seen an answer anywhere. Years ago, I could grow great carrots. Now in the same garden, the carrots come up great, but when they reach maturity, the tops, about an inch down the actual carrot, are brownish with holes in them. No bugs or animals are apparent. What could this be?
This is the carrot fly. Terrible thing to have. There's a couple of things in which you can do to get rid of the carrot fly. One, you can find a carrot variety that is resistant to such fly. Second thing you want to do is you want to cover with fleece as the plants are growing. You want to make a fly barrier. You can do that. You can grow with other plants, strong-smelling plants. You can incorporate, basil or chives or garlic among that. You don't want to thin these plants because as you thin, that's when the aroma of that carrot emits, and these flies can find that scent very, very easily, even at a great distance. They can do that. So later in the year, by sowing, most times if you sow late in June, the flies have kind of went through their cycle, the first generation of pests, although further generations of flies can attack your plants in July and September. So keep that in mind. Rotate the crops. Avoid planting parsnips and celery, as those will emit aromas in which will attract the carrot fly. And you can control by using biological means. There's different sticky traps, and there are chemicals in which you can use, which is not the best scenario in which to go, but that gives you some guidance. Let's go to Dawn. She called in and left a message for us to address, and it's about seed starting.
Yes, my name is Dawn, and I'm calling from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I would like to know what is the best way to start, in addition, a seed inside, and what's the best way to plant seed outside? Thank you.
All right, so Dawn listening on the WAAM 1600 AM and 92.7 FM frequencies over there in Ann Arbor and covering southeast Michigan. Holly, what's the best way to start a seed indoors? And what's the best way to start a seed outdoors? Good question.
Mm-hmm. So starting the seed indoors, you just want to make sure you have a nice, healthy potting soil to start in. You want to consider how long that seed is going to be in that soil, and then think about the medium or the container you're going to grow it in, and if you want to transplant it. And then also just making sure that they're kept nice and moist.
Yeah, and based on the particular variety, determines how many weeks prior to your last average frost date in which you're going to start that seed indoors, as well as if you have a lot of light available, ambient light from a very large window, or you may need to invest in a grow light from like Happy Leaf LED to supplement the light that's required for that plant to be very healthy in order to transplant it out. Also, you want to be aware of the conditions in which it's growing in, meaning the temperature. If you're just using a side bedroom in the home where the temperatures are 68, 72 degrees, great, fine, no worries. If you're in an unclimatized area, you may need to supplement some bottom heat on these plants in order to get them germinating. To grow them outside based on a type of seed, full sun, partial shade.
Or full sun, partial sun, shade, what have you. You also want to pay attention as to when that seed packet is going to tell you that it's okay to sow them outside. It's going to say something like after danger of frost, after, before, maybe a little bit hardier, danger of frost, something like that. So it's going to give you an idea, and then you would want to do some Googling to find out when your last average frost date is. And then you just direct sow them. It's going to tell you how deep to plant the seed, how to space them for outdoor planting. You want to pay attention to those recommendations as well.
Yeah, it's for a new gardener, it may be very overwhelming, but it's very, once understood, it makes quite a bit of sense. So there's nothing wrong with that. Good question. You can call in 1-800-927-SHOW. If you've got a question, certainly submit that to us, and we will get it answered on the air. All right, next question. We're going to go to South Dakota from listening on 570 WNAX with Vince here. And he's got a question about a chemical that he has sprayed on his grass.
This is Vince from Watertown, South Dakota. And my question is, I used grazon to spray on one row of my trees on the outside row, thinking that would be a good way to get the weeds but not the grass. And now I see the trees seem to be getting really funny looking, and some of them are even dying, curling up. My question is, how long is that stuff going to stay in the ground? Would I be okay to get a bunch of new trees and plant a new tree between every old tree, thinking that it's been long enough? Or is there a time limit how long that stuff, that grazon stuff, stays in the ground?
Well, got some bad news for you, Vince. It takes about 2 years for that grazon to come out of the soil, or time, 2 years minimum for the grazon to work itself out of the ground. Now, what the grazon, that chemical, it is a persistent herbicide, and it's very potent. And grazon is just one of the names. There's about a dozen different names that has this type of chemical in it. And it is used on agricultural applications to kill everything except for grasses that are grown in pastures. And then also those pastures, there's requirements of how long after spraying that a farmer can utilize that hay or that grass and turn it into hay, and then the animal eats it and turns into compost, turns into manure. You get it, make compost out of it. Years later, it's still that potent that it will kill the plants in your vegetable garden. It does kill woody plants. So what you're seeing is those trees reacting to that grazon that you have sprayed to kill everything but the grass between those. So the trees most likely are going to die because of the effect of that potency of that grazon. So you do not want to plant new trees in between the old trees. You basically want to abandon that area for about 2.5, 3 years, and then go in and plant a small tree there to see if the grazon is still active in that soil. The other thing in which you could do would be the trees eventually will die. You could remove the trees and then till that soil up or spade it over to try to get that aeration to that soil, to try to get some of that to work itself out of the soil through the atmosphere. So bad news, but a lesson that we all can learn from in regards to utilizing the herbicide of grazon, and that's just one of the main names. Another question we have here is, you use shredded paper in your garden. With using shredded paper, are you worried about what ink toner or the ink that is in the paper, whether it's printing paper or newspaper that you're using for mulch, as well as incorporating it in some of your containers? The ink in almost everything, I think, nowadays, is a soy-based ink. So you don't have the toxicity in which you have had or would have had 20 years ago. So by shredding it and allowing it to utilize it as a mulch, that's quite all right to use as mulch. And also what we use it on large grow bags from Rootmaker, the 20, the 30, the 45, the 60 gallon grow bags, we will fill it. We will fill it up about halfway and then put about an inch of shredded paper in that grow bag and finish filling it with compost. What that shredded paper, two things, or one main reason we do that is it acts as a sponge. It will hold some water and then it will release as the soil needs it. So yeah, shredded paper, use it in your garden. Some people find it not eye appealing and they choose to go out other ways. Just think about how much shredded paper that you have, or how much paper you could potentially turn into shredded paper in your garden.
John asks, I have several pickle buckets that I've washed, cleaned very well, but I can't get the pickle smell out. Can I still plant in these buckets? Do you think it would be okay? Yeah, you can certainly plant.
If you hate pickle smell, you're not gonna. It's not gonna work out for you. But there's not going to be any transfer.
No, there won't be any problems with it. You just want to make sure you put some drainage holes along the edge of the bottom, and then you can definitely grow in that.
So with that being said, we are out of time, and we greatly appreciate your time, as we do every week. Miss any portion of this show or want to revisit it in its entirety, you can do that by going to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website, clicking on the Radio Season 4 tab at the top of the page. Or you can send us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you the link to this show. Just put in the subject line, Show 3. And we'll also send the in-studio video of this show. Tell your garden friends that this program's on the air. That's how we get our message out to them, whether they listen to it live on your terrestrial radio frequency or through podcast replay. Join us next week on the show when we will be talking about tilling or not tilling. What's the right answer to that question? And 4 great landscaping trees and 4 great fruit trees for your property. Our guest will be environmentalist horticulturist Kim Erzman, as well as answering your garden questions. Until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.